specific, detailed instructions in the locker room. I'm only going to tell you two things at this time. Protect yourselves at all times, and most importantly, obey my commands at all times. Touch gloves, bang at the bell. God bless.
I don't know that Alantez Fox is 6'5", but I've never heard of a middleweight, ever. Forget about seeing one. I never heard of one even listed at 6'5". In the history of boxing, it's possible they exist. I've never heard of it. That is such a tall middleweight. And Andrade has two jobs against him. One is obviously to beat him, and the other is to have boxing fans afterwards saying, I'm not sure that Triple G, Canelo, Jacobs, or anyone is better than Andrade at 160.
Remember, Andrade's a natural right-hander. Starts out in the southpaw stance, which is his custom. Many fights he has stayed in the southpaw stance. In the fight against Colque, however, he came out in the 10th round in a right-handed stance and dominated Colque. And there's a good left hook that wobbles Alantez Fox early, and Andrade's going to work, looking to see if he can get a first-round knockout here.
Punch out, let him go,
Let's see what the response is from Fox. With the lack of experience, does he hold, does he clear his head, or does he try to fight back when he's not all the way back mentally?
I like the way Andrade's going straight to the body, or at least he was.
But we always see Andrade as the taller guy properly using his range. And sometimes that leaves fans with the impression that either that's the only way he can fight or that he's not a very exciting fighter. But here against a taller, rangier fighter, he's bringing the fight right to him.
All right, so it seems that Fox has survived the initial assault after having gotten hurt by an early punch from Andrade. And now they line up and face each other at center ring.
This is a key moment for Fox, who came into this fight saying all the right things. Him and his team felt like they were ready. You get hit with a shot like that, now you got to answer some questions for yourself.
Andrade focusing on the body again as he drives Fox back toward the ropes.
Work out. That's it.
Combination, good uppercut from Andrade.
Guys, a 6'5" middleweight. Bob Foster was a very tall, rangy, light heavyweight champion.
I think he was 6'4", though. 6'3".
Yeah. And you think of tall middleweights, Tommy Hearns, welterweight, was freakishly tall, 6'1", 6'2". But he was also very tall for a middleweight. Michael Spink's a very tall, light heavyweight, 6'2", 6'3".
Keith Holmes was a tall middleweight.
Right,
I don't think he was 6'5".
And none of these guys were 6'4", 6'5" middleweight?
Yeah. Very rare. If not one of a kind.
Even though Fox has a good shot from Andrade again. Even though Fox has a height advantage, he doesn't always use it. You'll see him leaning over his front foot, and that's why he's getting hit with some of the shots he's getting hit with right now. He sacrifices his height.
Andrade, as I said, he's getting to show a side of his game he doesn't often get to show. You can see he's a well-rounded fighter.
Leaning your chin out over the front knee, beyond the front foot, is an outstanding formula for getting yourself knocked out.
Every time.
Good hard left hand upstairs by Andrade. Andrade had a good round. Didn't get the first round knockout he was looking for, but dominated the round against Alantez Fox.
So we know you can't take your power, okay? So let's not rush anything, okay? Let's circle him from the right side. They're circling too much from the left side. Go both sides, okay? That jab comes up, slap it down. And don't forget, you got that left hand and lock that right hand in, all right? You pick which one's going to work, all right? Take your time. Relax.
This is the big shot that we saw Fox get in trouble with early in this fight. Just an overhand left from Andrade, and the chin of Fox was right in the air, and Andrade took advantage. Another angle right here. Fox's chin right in the air. Andrade having the experience that he has. He looked down and shot high, landed right on the chin.
Just a perfect shot.
Tall as Andrade is, how often does he get to throw that overhand left? But against a taller fighter, you see he can do it in a big moment and land it hard.
Yeah, he's very versatile. He's going to be what he needs to be in that boxing ring. Be it a boxer or a fighter. And tonight he's got to fight a little bit more because of the height advantage of Fox.
There are fighters whose overall athletic quality you might question. It isn't necessarily a requirement for somebody to be a great athlete. athlete to be a competent fighter. Andrade is an athlete. You look at him and you realize he could play a variety of different sports. Has great legs, a lively upper body, strength and flexibility. Whoa. Lands a 1-2 there. Very effective.
You already see a disparity in experience. I can see Andrade setting certain things up, and I don't think Fox sees what Andrade is trying to do.
Andrade, as an amateur, had wins against and winning records against Keith Thurman, Austin Trout, Danny Jacobs. I mean, a blue chip amateur. And Fox, you saw when he got hurt with that left hand in the first round, gave it away. Not only did he stumble, but he actually said, whoa, a mistake to let the opponent know how badly he was actually hurt.
Not only did he have an amateur win against Keith Thurman, he beat him 3 out of 4 times that they met. Also beat Austin Trout. You mentioned Daniel Jacobs. He had a win against Sean Porter in the 16-year-olds. Andrade beat most of the big names he's ever faced.
Simply put, he's a winner.
And undefeated as a pro.
We saw the success Andrade had early on with the overhand left, and I think that's the shot he's trying to set up. Once again, he just landed it right there, but he's trying to set it up by hitting Fox to the body, making him go to sleep, and then coming over the top again. And again, I don't know if Fox sees what's going on right now.
And you pointed out on that first big shot, Andre, how he looked down while throwing up. He also looks up while throwing down a lot.
Right.
He's very good at using his eyes to look the opponent in the wrong direction.
Those are the nuances of the game.
And he's been inactive in recent years because of emotional issues. A fighter like Andrade, who relies on timing because he's a very well-rounded boxer, needs to be active, particularly at this age where he's entering his physical prime. See the timing. His timing right now looks much sharper than it has recently because he's been more active. Second fight this year for the first time in a while.
First time since 2013.
10 seconds, it's for the belt. A little punching after the belt.
Andrade tried to set up one big left hand to finish the round. Landed it, but not with the effect he wanted. November 4, Boxing After Dark returns for fast-rising light heavyweight Dimitri Bibol's matchup with Trent Broadhurst of Australia. 1 week later, it's triple-header action, headlined by Daniel Jacobs' matchup with undefeated Luis Arias. Be on the lookout for Daniel Jacobs' My Fight in the lead-up to this one. And on Thanksgiving weekend, it's the ring return of Sergey Kovalev, who takes on Vyacheslav Jabransky at the theater in Madison Square Garden.
All right?
Yes, sir. You got a baby with your right hand.
Just shake it out, man. Shake it out, man. We working through
Both
this,
fighters
man.
are trained by their fathers.
What this jab going on, man? You gave away 2 rounds. All right? Let's get back.
You keep blinking every time you
Yeah,
Fox's father tells him he's given away the first 2 rounds. Andrade had something to do with that.
But those rounds weren't given, they were taken.
We have a new measuring system which shows us that Andrade controlled the center of the ring for 60% of the second round. What does it mean to a fighter to be able to control the center of the ring, Andre?
You gauge distance, and you understand what range you need to be at to be successful, and that comes with experience. That comes with years of having an extensive amateur background and having a good professional career, which Andrade has. And again, Fox doesn't know how to offset what Andrade's doing. Like, Andrade's doing everything he wants to do. When he wants to throw to the body, he throws to the body. When he wants to look him off, like we talked about earlier, he looks him off. And Fox just doesn't have an answer right now. Doesn't mean he won't have an answer, but right now I don't know if he has one.
Controlling the middle of the ring also means you need to take fewer steps than your opponent does if he's on the perimeter. Being in the middle as opposed to being on the ropes also means you have more options in terms of where you can move, making you a more powerful fighter.
And Andrade's also controlling the center of the ring because Fox is a natural counterpuncher. He doesn't necessarily want to come forward. You would think him being the bigger fighter, the taller fighter, that's what he would want to do, but it's the opposite. He's a counter puncher. He's not interested in pushing Andrade back.
So to a certain degree, this is a giveaway. He's not even attempting to stop Andrade from controlling the center of the ring. I mean, nevertheless, when we look at the two fighters in this position, we give Andrade the advantage because he's controlling the center of the ring.
That's right.
But you can fight on the perimeter and still be controlling the center. It's a question of what your intention is. Are you doing to the other guy what you're trying to do?
Hard body shot by Andrade. This time he throws it to the solar plexus.
Here Andrade is doing what he wants. He's initiating.
And Fox has the temperament. I loved his temperament yesterday in the fighter meeting. And if you know anything about him, he's a very well-rounded, grounded young man. He's not afraid of Andrade. He just doesn't have any answers. He doesn't have the experience to offset what this man is trying to do to him.
Well, we've already told you about the amateur record, and the point there is that Andrade has been fighting for years now against the kinds of guys that Fox is hoping to fight against. Andrade is really the first person of this quality level that Fox has been in the ring with.
And it's a heck of a guy to have a step-up fight against.
The way Andrade is throwing some of these bombs, Andre, he's like, not that he's gunning for a one-punch knockout, but it's the kind of fight where he might get it. He's in against a tall, lanky guy, and he's throwing some real big shots, and sometimes he's landing precisely.
Yeah, he's landing often, and I think he is looking for a knockout. He understands that the clock is ticking, and he understands that this is not his debut. He's been on HBO before, but this is kind of a reintroduction to the fans. He wants to go out with a bang.
Two live fights here at the Turning Stone. The next one will be between Jezreel Corrales, there on the screen, and Alberto Machado. Corrales, who failed to make weight yesterday and therefore lost his 130-pound title, made another seemingly bad decision to dye his previously blonde hair red. I think it looked better blonde. But at the end of the day, maybe he wanted to penalize himself after failing to make weight. This was a good penalty. Meanwhile, here's Alberto Machado of Puerto Rico, dedicating the fight, of course, to the troubled people of his island home as they battle to try to come back from the ravages of the hurricane. They are on Machado's mind, as is his baby boy, born just a short time ago. And now we're ready for round number 4 between Demetrius Andrade, there on your screen, and Alantez Fox. And let's bring in our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman, to find out how he scored the first 3 rounds. Harold?
Okay, Jim, I got a 3-0, 30-27 Demetrius Andrade. Jim, I got to point out a couple of things. Number one, Alantez Fox keeps circling to the right. It drives me crazy because he's walking right into that left hand. Look at which way he's going. He's going to the right. He's doing it the whole 3 rounds, driving me absolutely nuts. When you go to the right, you're going to get nailed by Andre's left hand. And Andre's got a powerful left hand. He's a southpaw. Number 2, for a guy that's 6'5", why don't he snap the jab? For God's sake, he pushes the jab. If you're 6'5", snap your shots. Number 3, Demetrius Andrade got a heck of a right hand for southpaw. Look at the way he snaps that right jab. Terrific right jab. 3-0 Demetrius Andrade.
Reason Fox circles to his right, counterclockwise, which is incorrect usually for a southpaw. It's really a retreat for a southpaw. Is because Andrade is able to establish his outside foot outside of Fox's outside foot, forcing him in that direction. Or encouraging him to move in that direction.
That's point 1. And one of the reasons that Andrade has such a good right jab is that he isn't a natural southpaw. He's a natural right-hander who fights in a southpaw stance. So that's yet another advantage for him.
Exactly right.
Andre, we're seeing more and more and more as time goes by of fighters who start out in the sport putting the stronger hand in front. Oscar De La Hoya, Miguel Cotto, we've talked about guys like that for years. Now here's Andrade, who puts the stronger hand in front. Michael Moorer did it. It seems to be something that helps a lot of fighters.
It can. I mean, if you look at me, I'm a left-hander, but I fight right-handed. You know, that's why
So you're yet another one.
That's why my
handed front.
Always made more sense to do that. It's one of these quirks of boxing culture from the beginning, that your power hand is behind, because 75% of your shots are thrown with your lead hand. Why wouldn't you make that your strong hand?
That was the thinking when I first walked in the gym and got with Virgil. And he came from the school of boxing where nobody wanted to fight at southpaw. So that's why he turned me around. And I think we did a pretty good job. It worked.
Oh, you did a very good job. We can go over your record at some point if you want to know.
Good combination from Andrade right there. Two-punch combination. The challenge for Andrade going down the stretch is to not let this fight stay like this for the duration of the fight. Is to slowly pick it up, search for dominance, and try to get Fox out of there.
10 seconds.
Oh, good hard left hand by Andrade. That one might have wobbled Fox just a tiny bit. Okay, on his feet now, and the round comes to a close. 4 rounds in, mostly all Andrade so
you're
far.
not gonna win like this, man. Look, well, if you know, then let's do what we need to do. Give me that water. That's what we need to do, man. Throw your punches. 1-2s. Stop trying to land one shot. Use your feet. That's what we train for. That's over there. We're gonna make him run into something. We make him run into something.
All right, so you got his reach down now. That's the important thing. And when you can, stop banging that jab of his away. All right, Pat. Inside or out? All right? All right, legs good? Everything good? Take your time.
Now as round 5 begins, let's return to the subject of ring movement. Our ring movement graphic now shows us that Andrade, through the first 4 rounds, is circling right twice as often as he circles to his left. And by doing so, he's forcing Fox to split his circling, left and right, 50-50. This is another element of ring generalship. In which direction do you circle, and to create what effect on your opponent?
Well, when a southpaw fights an orthodox fighter, there's several reasons that the southpaw wants to circle to his right, and the orthodox fighter wants to circle to his left. One of them is it's better positioned to land your backhand power punch if you can establish the outside foot. Another is the natural motion of throwing a jab when you push off your back toe. As a southpaw takes you in a counterclockwise direction, and as a righty in a clockwise direction. So if you're moving away from that, it's because your opponent is usually forcing you essentially to retreat, and you're not able to snap the jab as well.
I think if Fox has any chance to get back into this fight, he's got to pick up his jab, and he's got to be more offensively assertive. Even if he risks getting caught, he's going to have to give himself an opportunity to try to get back in this fight.
His father put it very simply between rounds. You're not going to win the fight unless you throw your punches. You've got to throw your punches.
I think, Andre, your point at the end of the last round is right on the money. Everyone knows Demetrius Andrade can fight. They know he can box. Everyone knows he's world-class that way. The reason he hasn't set the world on fire in boxing circles is because sometimes a guy who is outclassing his opponent seems to the fans to not show passion. Why should he? Why does he need to? He's winning the fight. And fans like to be inspired. They like fighters who take some risk when they pay their money for the ticket, when they set aside time to watch.
Punch out, work out.
Andrade scoring a knockout win here, I think, would establish that in the fans' minds.
It would be huge, because another thing that suggests an absence of passion is fighting only 4 times in 4 years. Fans want to see fighters who want to fight 4 times in 1 year.
And I don't think Andrade didn't want to fight in those cases. I think obviously there were things that were out of his control from what I understand. But to your point, Max, he is showing passion and he is taking risks. But again, to the layman fan, it doesn't necessarily seem like that. So you're right. He wants to get a knockout. He wants to get, just an exciting performance where not the hardcore boxing fan, but the casual boxing fan or the casual sports fan can relate. Exactly.
CompuBox numbers in this round so far. Andrade has landed 15 punches to only 2 for Alantez Fox.
I got 10 seconds.
Took a shot right there. Just missed it.
This Tuesday, don't miss the premiere of the next installment of Real Sports as Bryant Gumbel sits down with NBA Hall of Famer Patrick Ewing as Ewing prepares for his first season as head coach at his alma mater, Georgetown. And November 8th, join me for an all-new episode of The Fight Game featuring a Bernard Hopkins breakdown of top middleweight Daniel Jacobs and an introduction to a former convict, now a pastor, Buddy Osborne, who's using boxing and faith to change lives in inner-city Philadelphia. I went to Philadelphia to do that story. It is amazingly inspiring.
All right? Move your hand, land your right hand, and pull your hook. Let him run into some stuff. Stop trying to hit him hard with everything. Throw your combinations. Let him run into something. You hear me? You're throwing one punch at a time. It's not going to work.
Here's what bothers Troy Fox, father and trainer to Alantez Fox. Through the first 5 rounds, Fox is averaging throwing 23 punches per round. In his last 2 fights coming in, he was throwing 88 punches per round. There's a lot of distance between 88 and 23.
Time in.
That's why his father says you can't win this way.
Meantime, we've been talking about Andrade's inactivity in recent years due to promotional issues. And promotional issues are tied to network issues nowadays. And the splintering of various promoters at various networks has created an opportunity here maybe for Andrade, maybe that he wouldn't otherwise have. And oftentimes, among world-class fighters in various weight classes throughout boxing, what separates the ones who in the public's mind are the top pound-for-pound fighters and the others is opportunity.
I think Andrade, like you just mentioned, with the 3-fight deal, the move up in weight, this is a start tonight to kind of reintroduce himself to the fans, reintroduce himself to the network. But it all starts tonight, and he's got to seize this moment and take advantage of these next couple of years because, again, he's knocking on the door at 30, and the time is now.
Because in the middleweight division, there are star fighters, most notably Golovkin and Canelo, who can fight Andrade. There is no political obstacle stopping them from doing so. We know how great Terrence Crawford is, but now that he moves to welterweight, will he get a chance to fight Keith Thurman or Errol Spence or Danny Garcia or any of the other welterweights there to let us know how good he is? Right now, they are politically blocked. This is the division where people will actually get to go after each other.
It's not the case at 160, like you just said.
And there are names at 160 who, for one reason or another, Andrade right now, if this keeps up, would seem to match up well against. Given Triple G's close fights against Jacobs and Canelo, given the Canelo's height disadvantage and reach disadvantage against Andrade, given Andrade's overall skill set and how it matches up to Danny Jacobs and his success against Jacobs in their amateur meeting, he puts himself right in the mix.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping that. I mean, tonight he's up against a guy who has a height, a reach, and a weight advantage, and you see that that's not an issue for him. There's nobody that I don't think he, in the 160-pound division, that he doesn't match up well against. Again, it's just being given the opportunity.
Andre, how much do you think the action that we've seen in this fight has been influenced by that first thunderous left hand that Andrade landed in the first 10-15 seconds of the fight? Is that a big reason why Fox has been so inactive?
That's one reason, but the other reason is he's starting to understand how skillful and how good Andrade is. You can watch him on tape, you can hear about him, you can read his bio, but you won't know until you get in there. Fox suddenly realized how good Demetrius Andrade really is. That's why he's not throwing a lot of punches.
You never know for sure until they breathe on you.
Right.
He's open here and there. Nice work to the body, okay? He doesn't want it anymore. Make sure he don't spit in his water, Mike. All right? Okay, how you feel? Spit it out.
He can't do anything when you turn.
Yeah, that's it. That was the whole game plan.
You keep saying you got me, but you're going to throw in. You probably threw 9 punches. You probably threw 9 punches last round, man. Let's go. Fuck that pain. You can heal up after it. You can heal up after it.
Troy Fox still trying to get his son, Alantez Fox, to open up and throw punches. to go ahead and try to attack Demetrius Andrade.
I'll tell you why I actually like that advice right now. If it goes like this, he's going to lose. And obviously, there's more of a risk of getting countered more crisply if he throws combinations. His father can see he's not going to outbox him, so he wants maybe the luck of Andrade running into something. But he's right. He's being outclassed, and he's not going to give himself a chance to win if he doesn't let his hands go.
Harold Letterman, how do you have it through 6?
Okay, Jim. I got it 6-0, 60-54, Demetrius Andrade. Jim, I got to tell you something. I think that Alantez Fox is absolutely scared of him. He got hurt by that first punch early in the first round, that left hand, and he don't want to get hit by Andrade anymore. He circles the wrong way. He circles away from Fox's left hand. He doesn't punch. Look at this. He gives every fake, every head fake, but he doesn't punch. 6-0, Demetrius Andrade.
And tonight is a learning experience for not only Alantez Fox, but Coach Fox's father. It's one thing to tell the fighter, in this case, tell his son to do this and throw that, or to get in position, but you have to tell him how to do it. You're telling him what to do, but you got to also explain, especially for a young fighter, how do I do what you're asking me to do?
Fox landed a hard right hand to the stomach. Might have been his best punch of the fight. Demetrius Andrade barely noticed it. Just continued about his business. Another ring movement note in the 6th round. Down goes Andrade.
4. How you doing? 5. 6. He hit you, man. He's 7. Hey, come on.
Andrade shocked that this is called a knockdown.
Let's go.
It happened so quickly. From our angle, it was hard to tell if that punch landed or if he slipped on the canvas. It looked like a slip the way he went down.
Slip to me.
But it's officially a knockdown for Fox. And that'll get Fox onto the scorecards in a way that he hasn't been before.
That's either going to be good for Fox or bad for Fox, because he may have woke up Andrade by the referee calling that a knockdown versus a slip.
Andre, you mentioned that his father needs to tell him how to let his hands go or throw the punches. What do you see? How should he do that?
How should he do what exactly?
Fox, because his father wants him just to throw combinations. Even if they're not necessarily going to land, at least that gives him a chance to run Andrade into something.
Well, he can't just throw combinations against a guy like this. You know, he's got to set it up behind his jab. He's got to reach in a height advantage, so you got to use it. You got to start behind that. You got to blind Andrade or hope to blind Andrade, and then get your right hands, your left hooks, and those kind of punches in there. You're not just going to do it by standing on the outside and throwing big shots, and you're certainly not going to do it if you don't throw at all. So it all starts and ends with the jab.
17 seconds to go in round 7. Demetrius Andrade's desire to score a knockout against Alantez Fox here tonight probably went up in this round.
10 seconds.
As he went down on what appeared to us to be a quick slip. And the referee, Paul Rosado, or Gary Rosado, I should say, called it a knockdown. We'll try to get a look between rounds.
You're not fighting. You're not fighting at all. You're just going out there taking a beating. You're not fighting. He's not even really doing much to you. You just, okay, then punch. Throw a 3-piece, man. Let your hook go. Let your right hand go, man. Wake up. What are you doing?
Little inch, and drop these left hands in there. All right. Now the time to stalk him and shut him down, all right? He can't do nothing. He knows it.
Here we see Andrade throw a right jab, a miss from Fox, and a clear slip. The feet got tangled up. In my opinion, that wasn't even close to a knockdown. A miss from Andrade, a big miss from Fox, and a clear slip again for Demetrius.
It's actually a trip, and I think that he contacted both of Andrade's feet and sort of split them apart and sent him to the canvas with his feet. The punch had nothing to do with it.
The reason you know it wasn't a punch is because if a guy goes down like that from a punch, he doesn't get up on steady legs. He goes down like that from the punch because he's been short-circuited.
No punch landed. Both fighters coming out this round as if they got something to prove. Toe-to-toe.
Well, Fox wants to respond to his father's command. You saw how urgently his father, Troy Fox, said, "What are you doing? Why don't you go throw your punches?" So now he seems to have gotten to his son enough for Alantez to go in and try to do something.
Well, he's fighting on the inside, and Andre mentioned that he needs to start it off the jab, but as Harold says, he has a tendency to push that jab, not throw a real crisp one for a guy of his height and reach.
Yeah, you see that when you look at the tape of Fox and when you see some of his previous fights. But it's such a tough thing because when you're fighting a certain level of competition, you get away with those things. You're not forced to work on those things and make adjustments. Good combination from both guys here. So you step the competition up, and then all of a sudden that jab doesn't work, or that jab gets countered, and that's what Fox is experiencing here tonight. He still has opportunity to rise to the occasion, but thus far he hasn't been able to do it.
He's undefeated with a draw, Fox. And in the old days, they used to say, if you're undefeated by the time you fight for a title, you haven't learned anything. So a loss here to a fighter like Andrade isn't the end for Fox. It could be a good learning experience.
And he's being outclassed, but I don't think he's getting beat up. You know, mentally his mind is still there, his spirit is still there. I just think he doesn't have any answers. So I agree that, you know, if he goes on to lose this fight, it won't be the end of the world for him.
Well, one thing we don't know for sure is whether Andrade will have the punching power to beat anybody up at 160 pounds. That's still an open question.
Well, he had him hurt badly in the first round. And maybe that changed the tenor of the fight. It made Fox more reticent to engage, as Harold pointed out.
You can hear the punches of Andrade. He has enough pop in his punches to get respect. And if he hits anybody right, they can be hurt or they can go out. But I think the question is he going to open up enough to get those kind of results?
And you think of another American fighter who switch hits. Although Andrade's been fighting this almost exclusively southpaw. And has the boxing skill to win on points.
Punch out, work out.
But has a mean attitude and really wants to hurt his opponent, and as a result scores knockouts, and that's Terrence Crawford. And I think one of the reasons Crawford has broken through and is starting to really make noise with the American fight public is that little mean streak in him that complements his skill.
Little mean streak?
Big mean streak.
It is not a little mean streak.
That's why he's the pound-for-pound champ.
It is a deep mean streak.
Now that Andre's retired.
All right, we're 8 rounds in the first fight here from Turning Stone between Andrade and Fox. And there's Jezreel Corrales as he warms up in his dressing room, getting ready to go in against Alberto Machado. Corrales coming off a bad day. He failed to make weight for his assignment here and gave up his 130-pound title. And there's the ubiquitous Freddie Roach, one of the most familiar faces in all of boxing, as he prepares Alberto Machado to go out for his first title shot. In a fight in which it would appear Machado may have a chance to win a title in his first title shot, first opportunity to do so.
Right hand, man. You gotta throw it. Listen to me for one time. You wanna win.
Andrade has been a little bit less active here than was the profile in his 4 previous fights coming in. Of course, those 4 fights took place over the course of 4 years, but he averaged 66 punches per round in those fights in the 154-pound weight class. Now tonight, in his first fight at 160, he's averaging only 47 punches thrown per round. So a little bit of a drop-off in the activity level. That may have something to do with the height of the opponent.
The height, the reach, and even the added weight that Andrade has on him right now. Moving up from 154 pounds to 160.
To fight a guy who entered the ring unofficially at 180, outweighing Andrade by 13 pounds tonight. That affects the impact of your power punches, and you know, it's much harder to knock out a guy who outweighs you by 13 pounds.
It's much harder, and you don't want to be bumping up against a guy. Good combo from Andrade right there. A guy who outweighs you by that much, you're going to feel it.
Overhand left landed again for Andrade. But this time, Fox isn't as shocked by the impact as he was back in round number 1.
Fox is trying to implement the game plan of his father and trainer. That may not be a good idea because he's coming forward, he's being more aggressive. But Andrade is also a great counterpuncher. So better believe that he's trying to set Fox up for something big if he overreaches or gets too aggressive.
Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, it's the only idea that would satisfy his father.
And I agree with that. And it's the only idea that's going to give him an opportunity to win. He's too far in the hole on these scorecards right now.
And Fox, when he's not pushing the jab, which is not a great idea, is throwing a heavy jab out over his lead foot, and that makes him vulnerable to counters. There's a difference between a world-class fighter or a fighter who's trying to be there, but on the surface looks fast and skilled, and a fighter with as many dimensions as Andrade and as much experience as Andrade. He has a more sophisticated level of skill.
That time, Andrade tried to catch Fox coming in with a right hand.
When Fox pushes the jab, Andrade punishes him. When he throws the heavy jab out and his weight is out in front, Andrade makes him pay. And when he doesn't throw the jab, he has no chance of landing his punches.
Fox lands a hard shot to Andrade's right hip.
Bring him up.
This is actually where Andrade needs to be if he wants to try to score a knockout. And this is also where Fox needs to be if he's going to have some action, because out with the distance or with range, even though he has the reach advantage, Andrade still controls the distance and controls the range. Still not a good spot for Fox. This is where he needs to be, and if Andrade wants a knockout, this is where he needs to be as well.
They're both showing skill on the inside. It's just a better fight when they're there.
It's a better fight, but again, that's where both guys can have the most success.
Andrade showing some precision, punching on the inside, landing in combination. Gets in an uppercut to punctuate the round. December 2, World Championship Boxing brings you the final fight in the Hall of Fame career of Miguel Cotto, who will say goodbye after his sensational 17-year run as a professional prize fighter. Cotto will take on Saddam Ali in his home away from home. Madison Square Garden should be a big night. December 16, Billy Joe Saunders puts his middleweight title belt and undefeated record on the line against knockout artist David Lemieux. Saunders versus Lemieux, Max Kellerman. Classic counter-puncher versus slugger matchup.
In a great environment in Montreal. Should be an electric atmosphere.
The action heated up last round, and we see Andrade just miss with an overhand left and a right hook, but lands a straight left right on the face of Fox.
Round 10 of a scheduled 12. Andrade having won almost all the action up to this point, other than the freakish slip or trip that was ruled a knockdown. Harold, how do you have it so far?
Okay, Jim, I agree with you. I got an 88-82, 8 rounds to 1, Demetrius Andrade. Jim, I tell you, I still think that Alantez Fox just doesn't want to get hit. He don't like getting hit. 8-1, Demetrius Andrade.
This is a tough sport if you don't like getting hit.
Yeah.
I really don't think any fighter likes to get hit. I just think the type of punches he's getting hit with, he's just being outclassed right now. He's being outskilled. He's being outthought. And it's just a frustrating place to be in for a young fighter like Fox.
Brandon Rios might disagree with you about liking to get hit.
Now, trust me, you talk to those guys off camera, they'll tell you they don't like to get hit. Trust me.
There's a couple I've run into. There's something a little off about him, but
they may be stone crazy.
Yeah, you got to give it to Rios. That's why he was such a fan favorite. And here, guys, it's the same fight on the outside and the in the sense that each guy has the same chance of winning, whether outside or in. The difference is, on the inside, you see more of a fight, and fans like that. They're still showing skill on the inside, but there's just more offense.
And one thing you got to give Fox credit for is his temperament. He may not be opening up and throwing as many punches as you'd like him to see, but he hasn't given up. He hasn't gone into a shell completely, and I like to see that from a young fighter.
Andrade is the pride of Providence, Rhode Island. There are some Providence people here tonight, having made the trip here to the Syracuse area to root for him. He was in your gym in the Bay Area for a while. Andre?
He trained with Virgil for a little while. We loved having him there. You see him train up close and personal. You see him spar. You really begin to appreciate the type of skill, ability, and athleticism that he possesses. Good shot right there from Andrade.
This is a chance. Andrade loses his balance momentarily. Now steps back in. Landed a couple of solid shots. Seemed for a moment to have Fox going.
Andrade looking like he wants to take a shot at this knockout right here.
Does, although he's not getting a whole lot of torque on those shots. They're a little arm punchy, it seems.
Little bit, but trust me, Fox feels him.
20 seconds left in the round. Only 2 rounds to go after this. Andrade wants a knockout. He's got to take advantage of every opportunity.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
But he's a smart, economical fighter who won't overreach. Won't make himself vulnerable just for the chance of scoring a knockout.
I told you, Mike, you got 2 rounds.
Yo, I'm ready to give away these masks. I think we're all wearing side gloves, Golden Boy t-shirts. Turning Stone Resort Casino. You want to go home? Let me hear you make some noise. Turning Stone!
This is what we beat in front of Greg, in front of Abu, in front of your mother's watching at home. Nigga, come on.
Mike's watching, JoJo. You just proved it. All you got to do is let you hurt, and you hurt the shit out of him, and then just watch. You're not here because you got to work.
There you go. All right? All right, hold the defense. He's going to come out wild, then we'll settle.
The young man who was talking to Fox by his shoulder in the corner with a white headband around his head is Fox's younger brother, Michael, who's also a boxer with an unbeaten record in the welterweight division. Doesn't have the kind of height that that Alantez has.
You know, as we broadcast this fight, Andre, a fighter like you who could win in so many different ways and knows how difficult it is to pull it off at a world-class level. I can hear you bristle a little bit when we're critical or act or say something as though it's easy to do. Hey, if this guy just does X, then Y will happen. And I hear you. It's a lot easier said than done. And all these plans, you know, no plan survives contact with the enemy, as they say. You always have to make adjustments, and nobody's perfect. But at a world-class level, people do expect a certain return for their entertainment dollar and the kind of time they invest in watching it. And while Andrade is just an excellent fighter, and he's shown some of the passion a little bit more, I think, than in some recent fights. In this fight, there's still, I think, another level he can get to.
Yeah, he's definitely got more gears. And, you know, he's battling himself, so to speak. He's battling his temperament, which is to be what he needs to be and nothing else. You know, he's not going to take any unnecessary risk. He's not trying to, you know, put himself in a position to lose or get hurt. In this case, I'm not saying he's going to lose, but just to get hurt, get hit with a big shot, that's a temperament he's had since he's been a young boy, and it's hard to overcome that at 29 or almost 30 years old.
And when people will appreciate that is when he's matched against another top fighter, because then it really is an issue, not necessarily only of how exciting you can be, but whether you can get the W.
And I understand the frustration because Andrade's ability is a gift and a curse. Because he's so gifted and talented and has so much upside, people want to see more of him. And I'm not talking necessarily fights, but in his fights, they want to see more out of him.
Right. If you're fighting Triple G, just win. But to get to fight Triple G, you got to make people want to see it.
That's right. Good point.
Alantez Fox is fighting to survive now. He just wants to finish the fight on his feet. Andrade isn't going to take any unnecessary chances against a guy who entered the ring 4 inches taller than him and outweighing him unofficially by 13 pounds. So the chance is that you're going to watch this all play out to a lopsided unanimous decision in Andrade's
10
favor.
seconds. It's for the bell, no punching after the bell.
And he'll figure out where to go next from there.
Yeah, I gotta take care of the crowd over here on this side too. These are the last Canelo Alvarez side gloves. These are the last Golden Boy t-shirts. I gotta make sure.
What's the matter? Where? All right. Look, you can just coast this. Okay? You got this.
I need to hear y'all turn up Turning Stone.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, y'all gotta make some noise, man. Y'all gotta get up.
How's that feel?
Y'all gotta get up.
Better? That feel better?
I'm proud of you.
But if you can do anything else, you need to move. Ain't no try to it. You need to go out there and either get clip or clip. That's it if you want to win. You can't win any other way. Stop jabbing, throw your right hand, and pull your hook. Let's go.
This is round number 12. You're 12.
Ring movement through round 11. Andrade has traveled 3,826 feet in the bout. Fox has traveled more than a mile, 5,330 feet. So there's a difference of a quarter mile or so in the amount that Andrade has traveled and the amount that Fox has traveled. And obviously, that has something to do with the depletion of your stamina through the fight.
Punch out, get him out.
Andre, you see the way they kind of embraced before the open? I didn't love that. I think touching gloves, nodding to the guy is enough. It was almost like they were acknowledging to each other that this is the way the fight's gone and this is the way it might go, as though the competition is over. I don't mind that at the end of the 12th, but I don't love it at the beginning.
Yeah, again, it goes back to the fighter's temperament. Some guys are mean all the way through the fight, and some guys are, just very skillful, good fighters, but they don't have that nastiness, and that's all right. But, everybody's different.
As I said, Fox is fighting to survive.
And Andrade went to him like, hey, you've given me a good fight. This is really, it's not over yet.
It's a show of respect, But like you said, it's a little bit too much respect.
Yeah.
The final bell hasn't rung yet.
Are you trying to change something in this last round? Either guy, does Andrade want to get the knockout? Does Fox want to change something? Or have they kind of agreed that this is the way it is?
And you heard Andrade tell his father in between rounds that his left leg was cramping up, and his dad told him, well, just coach, we got the fight won pretty much. So I think that's what we can expect here in this last round from Andrade.
Pick him up, all right? Pick him up.
How Fox responds to this, assuming he goes on to lose this fight, this loss, is going to determine his trajectory moving forward as a fighter. He can't allow this to destroy his confidence. He's got to go back to the drawing board. His father's got to go back to the drawing board, and they have to be honest as they assess this fight, and they have to make some necessary adjustments if he's going to continue to grow as a fighter. He's still very, very young.
Well, they took a shot. They had a chance to make a payday on national TV and take a shot at a guy who's a junior middleweight belt holder and considered a likely top of the division kind of middleweight. They had to know they were the underdogs going in and not likely to win, and that it would be a learning experience at worst, and that's what it's turned out to be.
Max, you turned a beautiful phrase in the last round. No plan survives contact with the enemy.
That is as I recall, an ancient, I want to say Chinese saying, but I'm not sure.
Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get hit. Sounds very similar. Maybe Tyson has read The Art of War.
I know where I heard it last year. My daughters were watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ah, I got it. No plan survives contact with the enemy.
Master Splinter.
Andrade showing off his footwork as the 12th round comes to a close. And we will go to the scorecards after a thoroughly dominant performance by Demetrius Andrade in his first appearance at 160 pounds, fighting against a guy who unofficially entered the ring weighing 180 pounds. That scorecard would be 120 to 108, were it not for referee Gary Rosado's ruling in the 7th round that Andrade had been knocked down. The replay graphically demonstrated he was not knocked down, he was tripped. Andrade's father, Paul, was relaxed and calm throughout the fight. Andrade lets out a war whoop.
The Prussian general, no plan, survives contact with the enemy, Jim.
You've already figured that one out, huh? It was a Prussian general.
Googled it.
Thank heaven for modern technology. It's either our salvation or our destruction. Alantez Fox's father has dispensed with berating him for the absence of dedication. And now let's go to ring announcer Mark Prado with the official decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get an upstate New York round of applause for these two hard-hitting warriors. Having gone the 12-round distance, we now turn to the judges' scorecards for the decision. Judge at ringside, Wynn Kent saw the action 118-110. Don Trella saw it 118-109, and Don Ackerman saw it 116-111. All three judges for your winner by unanimous decision, still undefeated and the new ABO Intercontinental Middleweight Champion from Providence, Rhode Island, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade.
Well, the scores are just about what you would expect them to be, other than Don Ackerman's 116-111.
Look, I understand that he was credited with a knockdown that he shouldn't.